Welcome, dear listeners, to Late Night Science. Tonight, we will drift together into the quiet edge between knowledge and wonder, where the language of the cosmos becomes a whisper inside your own mind. Thank you for joining this shared journey into the night. If this is your first time here, you are warmly invited to stay, to let curiosity carry you gently toward rest. If you are already part of this growing circle, thank you for being here again. Your presence turns this exploration into a gathering beneath the stars. As always, I would love to hear where you are listening from tonight. Somewhere in a quiet room, perhaps, or on a balcony, or on a long midnight drive. Let me know in the comments when the journey is done. And if you'd like to keep walking these paths of wonder with me, please remember to like, subscribe, and stay close for more. Now let's begin. You open your eyes. The world greets you not with words, not with equations, not even with shapes, but with color. A sunrise leaks across the horizon, spilling into your room. It is not yet morning in the strict mathematical sense. It is not a clock striking the hour, or the earth precisely tilting toward the sun. What awakens you is something softer, something your body feels even before thought has time to sharpen. A glow that is not merely photons entering your eye, but a private event in consciousness, the blooming of color. Science, when asked, gives a precise reply. What you are seeing is nothing more than wavelengths of light between 400 and 700 nanometers, an electromagnetic vibration striking your retina, translated into signals processed by neurons. Simple, measurable, repeatable. Yet this explanation, though powerful, feels incomplete. It does not capture the sensation itself. The redness of red, the goldness of gold. A number cannot make you feel what you are now feeling. And so already a gap opens. The universe as described by physics and the universe as experienced by you. This gap is subtle, yet it defines our lives. The sunlight is not only warmth and frequency. It is a shimmer of memory, a stirring of emotion, a brushstroke of meaning on the canvas of your private mind. You may call it orange, another may call it amber, but the true experience belongs only to you. The first ray of the morning is not simply data. It is your own untranslatable language. Notice how immediate it is. Before you could ever name colors, you lived inside them. As an infant, your eyes flooded with shades long before you had words to attach to them. You swam in raw experience. Words came later. Red, blue, green. Attempts to tame something ineffable into common symbols. Yet the word's never the thing itself. To say red is not to give someone the sensation of red. To say gold is not to transmit the radiance of a sunrise. Language leans against the experience, but never fully reaches it. Consider now the quiet paradox. The world, according to science, contains no colors. There are only photons of varying energies, only vibrations coursing through space. The redness of red is not out there. It is in here, inside you. The sunrise does not glow with color. Your brain does the glowing. Your nervous system has built a private code, a hidden language that only you can read. Every hue you see is an act of translation, a transformation of invisible waves into visible beauty. This is why philosophers call color a qualia, a raw piece of consciousness that cannot be explained away by measurement. We can describe its triggers. We can follow its pathways in the brain. But the inner taste of color, the pure sense of this is red, resists capture. It's private, unshareable. You can point, you can compare, you can agree with another person, but you can never climb inside their perception. Their red might not be your red at all. And you would never know. The sunrise grows stronger. Shadows retreat, the sky deepens, and the private language continues to unfold within you. You are both the speaker and the listener of this strange code. Your eyes collect the raw signals, your brain invents the translation, and your consciousness is left to marvel at the story being told. And yet, in a deeper way, no one else can read this exact story but you. Think of it. A world shared by billions, yet each human carries a different palette, a private gallery of hues. Even if two people stand side by side watching the same dawn, they may be inhabiting different inner worlds. One may see the orange more vividly, another may feel the violet creeping in. We share words, but we never share the raw experience. And so, color becomes both the most universal and the most solitary of phenomena, common in language, private in sensation. Science reassures us there is no mystery, only optics and neurology. And yet, the deeper you look, the more the mystery grows. Why should wavelengths become colors at all? Why should the firing of neurons give rise to something so radiant? Why is there something it feels like to see, instead of only the blind calculation of data? Each ray of light carries with it not just information about the world, but a reminder that you are conscious, that you are here to witness, that you are not merely a machine processing input, but a being immersed in experience. So tonight, as you drift, hold on to this quiet wonder. The first ray of sunlight or the last ray of twilight is more than physics, more than mathematics. It is your mind revealing itself to itself, using color as its secret language. Perhaps it is illusion. Perhaps it is truth. Perhaps it is both. You will never know if your red matches another's. You may never know why wavelengths ignite into hues, but you do know this. The sunrise you carry inside you is yours alone, unrepeatable, untranslatable. And as the glow fades softly into thought, a new question begins to rise, gentle but insistent. If color is not truly in the world but only in you, what is the world like without you? What is light when stripped of color? What remains of the universe if you remove the private rainbow the mind invents? Imagine for a moment peeling away the curtain of your perception. Imagine seeing the universe not as a human, but as a physicist's chalkboard, stripped of sensation. The morning sky would no longer be painted in blue. The evening horizon would no longer blush into gold. Instead, all that remains are waves, rising, falling, oscillating, repeating. There is no color here, only mathematics. In the equations of physics, light has no shimmer, no hue. It is described as an electromagnetic wave defined by its frequency, its wavelength, its energy. The redness of a rose is, in this language, nothing but a vibration of approximately 650 nanometers. The blueness of the ocean is simply shorter waves, around 470 nanometers. Numbers pure and precise. Equations silent and exact. Nothing in these numbers tells you how it feels to see them. This is the first great contrast to consider. To physics, light is objective. It can be measured, predicted, manipulated, bent, or broken into spectra. To the mind, however, light is subjective. It is not merely frequency. It is azure, crimson, emerald. It is not merely oscillation. It is glow, radiance, brilliance. The external world is colorless, and yet within your skull, colors blossom like a secret garden. Think of a rainbow. A scientist may call it refraction, water droplets bending light at precise angles. A mathematician may express it as scene functions and refractive indices. And yet, you, standing in the rain, see something else entirely. An arc of impossible beauty, hovering in the sky, fading as you approach. Which is the truth? The rainbow as mathematics or the rainbow as wonder? Both truths coexist, but they do not overlap. One truth is universal, shared across laboratories and instruments. The other is private, known only to the witness. Science tells you what is happening in space. Experience tells you what it feels like. And between them lies a mystery. Why should one ever become the other? Why should numbers sing in color? The cosmos itself, as far as we can measure, is colorless. Stars burn, but they burn in spectra beyond sight. Nebulae glow, but their hues are often mapped artificially by telescopes, translated into shades your eyes can perceive. The silent universe does not shimmer. It vibrates. It pulses in energies, in quanta, in invisible patterns. The colors you see in space photographs are not what the cosmos looks like. They are translations, interpretations, enhancements designed for your human vision. The real universe is darker, stranger, more alien than your private rainbow allows, and yet without color, would you care? Would you be stirred by the heavens if they were only numbers? Would the night sky inspire poems if it was seen only as energy values and spectral lines? Perhaps color is not in the universe at all, but in the act of living within it. Perhaps it is the mind's way of making the inhuman human, the mathematical personal. Notice again the contrast. Light in physics is a wave, a photon, a particle. Light in consciousness is radiance, glow, splendor. Physics asks, what is its speed, its mass, its probability of interaction? Consciousness asks, what does it feel like to be bathed in it? One is silent, the other sings. One is mechanical, the other is magical. Both are real, yet neither cancels the other. There is also the puzzle of invisibility. Most of the electromagnetic spectrum lies beyond your reach. Ultraviolet, infrared, radio, gamma rays, all coursing through the air around you, now unseen, unfelt. Your eyes carve out only a narrow band, a tiny slice, and from that slice your mind builds the entire theater of color. Imagine if you could see beyond, if infrared glowed in reds deeper than any sunset, if ultraviolet painted flowers in patterns invisible today. Would your world look the same, or would you inhabit an entirely new rainbow? Already you can sense it. Color is not a property of the world, but a construction of the mind. The physics of light provides the raw material, frequencies, energies, oscillations. But these are not color. They are only the scaffolding on which color is painted. Something in you, something quiet and unmeasurable, adds the glow. So the question grows sharper. Who is doing the adding? Is it your brain, a simple biological machine evolved for survival, creating colors as shortcuts to navigate food, mates, and predators? Or is it consciousness itself, the mysterious flame inside you, turning vibrations into visions? Is color merely useful illusion, or is it revelation? Does it hide the world from you or reveal it? The answer may be both. The mind transforms physics into poetry because poetry is easier to live with than mathematics. Wavelengths do not nourish the soul, but the green of a forest does. Frequencies do not invite awe, but a sunset does. The brain, in its quiet alchemy, translates the raw signal into the language of life. Without this translation, the universe would be silent. With it, the universe becomes a spectacle, and yet remember, the colors you know are not out there. They are in here. A forest does not glow green in the dark when no eyes are watching. The ocean does not shimmer blue to the fish beneath the waves. These hues exist only when a mind receives the signal, only when perception ignites into sensation. Without an observer, the cosmos is colorless. With an observer, it blooms. This is both humbling and haunting. It means that every emerald leaf, every golden horizon, every violet shadow is not just nature, it is also you. Without your perception, the forest is invisible frequencies. Without your perception, the sunset is nameless radiation. You are not separate from the beauty you see. You are its co-creator, the final step in the chain that transforms silence into splendor. So the puzzle remains, what is color really? A trick of neurons? A survival mechanism? A private hallucination we all quietly agree upon? Or is it something deeper, a hint that consciousness itself is not reducible to physics, that the world is not complete without experience? Physics without color is precise, but it is not enough. Consciousness without physics is radiant, but it floats without anchor. Perhaps the truth is that both are halves of one mystery, each incomplete without the other. And so you drift into the question that has haunted philosophers and scientists alike. When you call a shade red, do others see it as you do? When you say blue, is it their blue or your blue? We have equations for wavelengths, but not for the inner glow. We can share words, but not sensations. The universe may be colorless, but our minds are not. And that leads us gently, inevitably, into the next mystery. If color lives in the mind, How do we speak about it? How do we build a common language for what is unshareable? When I say red, do you see what I see? Or is my private rainbow forever sealed from yours? Try just for a moment to imagine explaining your red to someone else. Not the word red, not the associations with roses or stop signs or blood, but the actual redness itself, the way it glows inside your mind. You quickly discover the problem. You cannot transmit it. You can only gesture toward it with examples, point to an apple, wave your hand at a sunset, or trace the crimson streaks in a painting. The experience itself remains sealed within you, untranslatable, irreducible, private. Language is generous, but it is also thin. It gives us labels, categories, a way to coordinate our lives. Red light means stop. Green light means go. It works well enough to keep traffic flowing, but it cannot make me see what you see. When you say red, I nod in agreement. Yet all the while, I may be imagining a shade you would not even recognize. And how would either of us ever know? This is the mystery philosophers call qualia, the raw first-person feel of experience. Redness, blueness, the taste of salt, the ache of sorrow, the warmth of joy. These are not measurable in the way frequencies or temperatures are. They are not transferable. You can measure the wavelength of light down to the tiniest fraction, but that will never tell you what it feels like to see it. You can measure the decibels of sound, but that will not capture the shiver a piece of music sends through your chest. Qualia are the most intimate facts of existence, and yet the least communicable. Imagine two people at the edge of a field, watching the same sunset. One says, "Look at that beautiful red." The other nods and says, "Yes, so red." Outwardly, they are in perfect agreement. Inwardly, they may be worlds apart. For one, the red may be sharp, blazing, full of urgency. For the other, it may be softer, tinged with orange, a gentle hue leaning toward warmth. Yet both agree because language does not demand inner alignment. It only demands outward coordination. We live together by labels while secretly inhabiting private worlds. This leads to a haunting thought experiment. Suppose that without your knowing, the color you call red has always appeared to me the way you would describe as green. Yet from childhood, I was taught to call it red, just as you were. I point to the same apple, I say the same word, I behave in the same way. Outwardly, nothing is wrong. Inwardly, my rainbow might be inverted. My private dictionary may be completely different from yours. And still we would never know. Science has tried to peek into this problem. Brain scans show that when two people look at the same color, similar regions of the brain light up. This suggests a kind of shared architecture, a common biological foundation. But the scan only shows where neurons fire, not what the firing feels like. The inner glow remains hidden. Machines may prove that my brain is processing the same wavelength as yours, but they cannot prove that my red is your red. At best, they can say, something is happening in both of us. But the something itself, the lived experiencer, was locked behind the walls of private perception. This is where the puzzle thickens. Language gives us the illusion of shared meaning, but perhaps it is only coordination, not communion. You and I can both say the sky is blue, and we believe we mean the same thing. But maybe our private skies are not the same at all. Maybe our inner dictionaries are written in different scripts, never compared, never translated, never aligned. Yet there is another layer of wonder here. Even if our reds differ, even if our blues diverge, the fact that we can live together, build cultures, write poetry, and share art means that somehow our private languages overlap just enough. They may not match perfectly, but they rhyme. They create harmony, even if the notes are different. When a poet describes a scarlet dawn, when a painter fills a canvas with sapphire seas, you resonate with the work, not because you share their colors exactly, but because your private dictionary finds a way to echo theirs. Beauty lives in the resonance, not in identical experience. Consider also how your private dictionary shifts within your own life. Colors you once loved may now seem dull. Shades that once felt ordinary may now move you deeply. Memory and emotion weave themselves into your palette, tinting your reds with nostalgia, darkening your blues with sorrow, brightening your yellows with joy. Your dictionary is not fixed. It is rewritten each day. The word red does not just mean a wavelength to you. It may mean childhood, or a first love, or the warning sign you ignored, or the flower placed on a grave. Each of us carries not one dictionary, but thousands of them layered across time. So the private dictionary is not only a puzzle of science, it is also a theatre of the soul. It is where physics becomes personal, where light becomes meaning, where wavelengths become memory. The redness of red is not just sensation, it is story. And no story is ever exactly the same between two people. This leads us naturally toward the next question. If color is private, how do we build a shared world at all? If each of us is carrying a secret rainbow, why does the world feel stable and consistent?
Why is it that despite the mystery, we still agree enough to function, to share, to love?
Perhaps the answer lies not in absolutes, but in contrasts. We do not need to see the same red. We only need to agree that it is not green. We do not need to share identical shades. We only need to recognize the differences, the patterns, the edges. Contrast is what allows us to speak at all. Without black, white is meaningless. Without shadow, light is invisible. Without difference, there is nothing to notice, nothing to name, nothing to experience. Our private dictionaries, though sealed, still find bridges in contrast. We may not share exact hues, but we share the structure of distinction. And through that structure, the rainbow begins to make sense. And so, as you drift deeper into this thought, a new idea begins to shimmer. If every color is born from contrast, then perhaps the secret of perception lies not in absolutes, but in relationships. Perhaps color itself is not a thing, but a dance between light and shadow, between brain and world, between private and shared. Every color you see is born from difference. White is revealed by black, and light is only meaningful when shadow stands beside it. Imagine a world without contrast, a canvas washed in a single endless hue. No edge, no variation, no boundary to catch your eye. Would color even exist? Or would it dissolve into invisibility like sound without silence, or music without pause? Your mind is built to notice differences, not absolutes. The eye does not tell the brain, this is light, this is color. Instead, it whispers, here, the light is stronger. There, it is weaker. This patch is brighter than the one beside it. That edge is darker than its neighbor. The world you see is stitched from comparisons. Without them, perception would flatten into a void. Consider a simple grey square. Place it on a black background and it glows, almost luminous. Place the same square on white and it dims, suddenly dull. The square itself has not changed.
Only the surroundings have shifted.
Yet your brain invents two different realities from the same stimulus. This is contrast at work. The silent sculptor of perception, shaping the rainbow by carving out edges in the field of vision. Machines can measure absolute wavelengths of light, and yet they do not see what you see. A camera records data, but it does not invent color. Your brain does. The redness of red, the blueness of blue, arises not from the raw signal, but from the pattern of differences. It is in the comparisons, the shadows and mirrors that the rainbow is born. Take shadows, for example. They are often dismissed as the absence of light, but in truth, they are what makes light visible. A beam of sunlight cutting through a darkened room is striking not because of the light itself, but because of the way it pushes against darkness. A candle flame flickers beautifully because it trembles against shadow. Imagine a world without shade, pure, unbroken brightness, featureless and blinding. In such a place, light would lose all meaning. It is darkness that gives light its shape. Your entire nervous system thrives on this principle. The cells in your retina fire not because of absolute illumination, but because of differences across tiny spaces. They sharpen edges, exaggerate borders, enhance contrast. In doing so, they create a world of crisp outlines and vivid hues. You do not see raw physics. You see a painting woven from differences, and this painting is fragile. Change the tuning of the brain, and the rainbow could vanish or change beyond recognition. Imagine a species that perceives only uniform brightness, no edges, no shadows. To them, the world would not contain colors at all, only an endless wash of light, formless and abstract. Or imagine a brain tuned to see only contrast in motion, detecting flickers and changes but blind to static scenes. Their rainbow would be alien, their reality unrecognizable. Even within us, the fragility of perception shows itself. Walk out of a dark cinema into the noon sun, and for a moment you are blinded. Your retina, adapted to shadows, struggles to adjust. The colors around you flare too brightly, then fade back into balance. At night, under the glow of a street lamp, reds and greens seem to flatten into grays, as if the rainbow itself were dimming. Your perception is not fixed. It flickers with circumstance, a shifting theatre of contrast. This is why shadows and mirrors are more than metaphors. They are the conditions of color itself. The artist knows this instinctively. A painter deepens blue not by adding more pigment, but by setting it beside orange. A photographer brings a subject to life not by flooding it with light, but by shaping shadows. Even storytellers know the rule. Joy is brightened by sorrow, triumph by struggle, meaning by loss. Contrast is not just a property of vision. It is a law of experience, and still we might ask, what if contrast were tuned differently? What if your brain drew its boundaries in other ways, or exaggerated different edges, or ignored certain differences altogether? Would your rainbow still exist? Or would you see something entirely new, something no human words could describe? It is tempting to think of color as fixed. The red of roses, the blue of oceans, the green of leaves. But those are only the colors tuned to your nervous system, your way of carving the world. Somewhere out there, perhaps in the eye of another creature, the same rose burns in ultraviolet, the same ocean gleams with hidden shades, the same leaf pulses with patterns invisible to you. Their rainbows are not yours, yet they are just as real. And so we arrive at a larger mystery. If color depends on contrast, and contrast depends on the tuning of the brain, then whose rainbow is the real rainbow? Is yours the standard, or is it only one private dictionary among countless others written by nature? The truth may be that color is not a property of the world at all, but a collaboration between world and mind, a fragile construction that vanishes the moment the tuning changes. Pause with this thought. Every hue you cherish, every sunset that moves you, every memory painted in color, all of it rests on the delicate balance of contrast, on shadows whispering to light, on edges carved by neurons. The rainbow is not absolute. It is conditional, precarious, endlessly reinvented. And just beyond the veil of your vision, other creatures are carrying their own rainbows, born of contrasts you cannot imagine. Birds see patterns on feathers invisible to you. Bees dance among blossoms painted in ultraviolet. The mantis shrimp, with eyes richer than ours, carries 16 color receptors, where humans have only 3. To them the rainbow is vast, layered, alien. To you their rainbow is invisible, so perhaps the question is not whether the rainbow could vanish if the brain were tuned differently. The question is, whose rainbow do we trust? Which tuning tells the truth? The answer waits in the eyes of other species, in the palettes of nature far beyond our own. When you step outside and lift your eyes to the sky, you see a stretch of blue, calm and infinite. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, is that same blue what a bird sees? Or is it only your private invention, a translation tuned to the receptors inside your eye? You live within a rainbow crafted by your nervous system, yet other creatures move through rainbows you cannot begin to imagine. Birds, for instance, are not limited to your palette. Many species carry a 4th color receptor beyond the 3 that humans possess. To you, the world is a composition painted from red, green, and blue. To a bird, It is a richer canvas, ultraviolet threads woven into every feather, every petal, every glint of sunlight. What looks to you like a plain brown sparrow may glow to another sparrow with secret markings, vivid signals written in invisible ink. Their eyes decode a world hidden from yours, a private spectrum where communication, attraction, and survival unfold. Bees, too, are painters of invisible gardens. As you admire a flower's red or yellow, a bee sees something entirely different. Ultraviolet patterns guiding it like landing lights on a runway. The blossom has drawn a map only the bee can follow, a shimmering invitation written in colors that exist outside your reach. To you, the garden is beautiful. To the bee, it is a coded system of nectar and navigation, precise and functional. You share the same physical petals, yet you walk through different worlds. And then there is the mantis shrimp, that alien marvel of the ocean. Where you have 3 color receptors, it has 16. 16. Its eyes are like orchestras receiving a spectrum that makes your rainbow look like a child's drawing beside a symphony. Scientists once imagined that the mantis shrimp must see colors so dazzling, so beyond comprehension, that human imagination could never keep pace. Later studies suggested something subtler. Perhaps the shrimp does not luxuriate in infinite shades, but uses its receptors as tools, rapidly sorting signals for survival. Whether beauty or utility, the point remains the same. Its rainbow is not yours. Even within your own species, differences abound. Some humans are colorblind, their world stripped of reds or greens. For them, the traffic light is not the crisp sequence of hues you see, but a pattern of brightness and position. And there are rare individuals with a 4th receptor, tetrachromats, who may perceive colors invisible to the rest of us. Imagine walking through a gallery where everyone sees the same painting, except you, who notices extra shades glimmering between familiar tones. How could you describe this richness to others?
How could they ever understand?
This is the paradox. Color feels so real, so universal, so certain, yet every nervous system invents its own palette, carving different rainbows from the same physics. There is no single rainbow stretched across the cosmos waiting to be seen. There are only translations, private and plural, each written in the language of biology. So whose rainbow is the real rainbow? Is it yours, with its comforting blues and fiery reds? Is it the bees, with ultraviolet maps stitched into every flower?
Is it the mantis shrimps with a spectrum so vast we cannot even picture it?
Or perhaps the question itself is flawed. Maybe there is no real rainbow at all, only a dance of light and perception, a collaboration between matter and mind. This realization humbles us. For all our science, for all our instruments and measurements, the rainbow remains a negotiation between physics and experience. The universe itself, stripped to equations, contains no color. Photons do not know they are red or green. They carry only frequencies, vibrations, energies. It is life, in its many forms, that turns those numbers into experiences, weaving poetry from mathematics. And here you find yourself, standing among countless creatures, each wrapped in their own rainbow. You think you see the world as it is, yet you are only seeing the version that your nervous system allows. The fish gliding through coral, the butterfly perched on a leaf, the hawk circling in the air. Each inhabits a spectrum you cannot follow. You share the same sun, the same earth, the same light. But your worlds are not the same. This thought can feel unsettling at first. It means that what you see is not reality in its fullness, but only a filtered translation. Yet it is also liberating, for it means reality is richer than you can ever know. There will always be more colors, more possibilities, more ways of being. Your rainbow is not the final story. It is only one chapter in a book written across countless eyes, and here lies a hidden comfort. The fact that your mind invents color does not diminish its beauty. If anything, it deepens it. The redness of a sunset, the greenness of spring leaves, the gold of candlelight on a quiet evening. These are not illusions to be dismissed, but creations to be cherished. They remind you that perception is not passive reception, but active participation, a private collaboration between the cosmos and your consciousness. So when you look at the sky and call it blue, remember the word, the feeling, the hue all belong to you. A bird, a bee, a mantis shrimp. They each walk through a different sky, carrying their own invisible rainbows. And perhaps that is the secret. There is no single rainbow. There are only palettes of possibility unfolding endlessly through the eyes of living beings, and if color is not universal, if each creature carries its own translation, then what exactly are you speaking when you call the world blue or red or gold? You are speaking not in physics, but in the private language of light, a language composed not of numbers but of sensations, not of equations but of experiences. Somewhere between the photon and your mind, numbers dissolve into poetry. But where does this alchemy occur? Where, along the silent path from vibration to vision, do frequencies become color and color become experience? Imagine for a moment that light is only vibration. Trembling fields moving through empty space. That is how physics tells the story. Photons, those elusive quanta, race across the cosmos with frequencies measured in numbers, oscillations per second, energy in electron volts. It is a language of mathematics, precise and austere. And yet when those same vibrations touch your eye, they dissolve into something that mathematics cannot contain. A frequency becomes a color. A number becomes an experience. Physics whispers in equations, and your mind answers with poetry. Each photon that enters your eye is a syllable, but not a syllable of spoken language. It is part of a deeper private tongue, the language of light. Your nervous system, like a composer, takes those raw syllables and arranges them into symphonies of color. Blue is not merely a shorter wavelength. It is a cool hush, an infinite sky, a calming presence. Red is not merely a longer one. It is warmth, passion, fire. Physics delivers vibrations, but you translate them into meanings. This translation is not straightforward. The retina is not a passive window. It is an interpreter. It catches photons on tiny receptors tuned to specific ranges of frequency, cones that specialize in short, medium, and long wavelengths. But these cones do not act alone. They send signals that are compared, contrasted, recombined. The brain does not say, this cone is firing, therefore this is red. Instead, it says, this cone fires more strongly than that one. The balance tips this way, therefore the color is red. From the very beginning, perception is not about absolutes, but about relationships. Light enters, and almost instantly, it becomes something else. And yet, somewhere in this chain of events, a mystery arises. At what point does the signal become the sensation? Where does vibration become vision? Science can map the journey up to a point, from photon to receptor, from receptor to nerve impulse, from nerve impulse to cortical patterns. But then, like a cliff edge, the map ends. The final leap is hidden. How does the pattern of electrical activity become the redness of red, the blueness of blue? Where, in the shifting orchestra of neurons, does the music of experience begin? This isn't merely a scientific puzzle. It is a philosophical one. It is the question of qualia, the irreducible qualities of experience. A wavelength can be measured, written down, calculated, but the feeling of that wavelength, the way your inner world glows when you see it, is private. The universe outside you may hum with frequencies, but the colors you see are not out there. They are in here, inside your mind, conjured by a process you cannot fully observe. Think of language itself. The word tree is nothing but sounds, arbitrary syllables strung together. Yet, when you hear it, your mind does something astonishing. It grows an image of branches, leaves, roots. The sound dissolves into meaning. In the same way light dissolves into color. Numbers dissolve into poetry. The photon is a syllable, but you are the poet who completes the verse, and what a verse it is. The world becomes a story written in hues.
Morning begins in pale gold.
Noon stretches in harsh white. Evening sinks into deep crimson.
Even darkness has its shade. The indigo of twilight, the silver of moonlight, the soft black of night.
Each one is a sentence in the language of light, and your consciousness is the listener. Without you, it would all remain unspoken, unsung, but again the riddle returns. Where does this alchemy occur? Is it in the firing of neurons, the synchrony of brain waves, the chemistry of neurotransmitters? Or is it somewhere else beyond biology, at the threshold between matter and mind? Science admits it does not yet know. The language of light is both familiar and alien. You use it every day, and yet its origin is a mystery as vast as the cosmos itself. Consider this. The same light that paints your world in color travels for billions of years across space, untouched, unseen. A photon from a distant star crosses the vacuum in silence.
It is only when it meets an eye, yours, or perhaps the compound eye of an insect, that it is translated into something more.
Until then, it carries no color, only potential.
Color does not exist in the star.
It does not exist in the vacuum. It exists in perception, in the alchemy that transforms vibration into vision. This makes you not a passive observer of the universe, but an active participant. Every color you see is a creation, a dialogue between photon and brain. Without your perception, the cosmos would be silent in hue. The rainbow exists only because life exists to translate it. In this sense, you are not only reading the book of the universe, you are helping write it, one perception at a time. And yet, even in this act of creation, disagreement arises. Two people stand side by side at the same sunset. One swears the sky glows orange. The other insists it is pink. Both are sincere, both are correct in their own private language. Color, it seems, is not only a collaboration between matter and mind, but also a negotiation between minds. The language of light is shared, but it is never perfectly universal. It is full of dialects, private shades, subtle disagreements. If perception can diverge so easily to if the same sky can appear in different words, in different hues, can we ever trust it fully? Or is color, for all its beauty, a fragile construct, one that flickers and shifts depending on the observer? The question lingers, soft as the fading light of dusk. Your private language of photons may not match another's, and yet when you gaze at the sky and call it beautiful, that beauty is undeniable, even if untranslatable. Two people stand at the edge of a quiet shore, watching the sun descend into the horizon. The waves shimmer, the sky bends into fire. One gazes upward and whispers, "How orange it is tonight." The other shakes their head gently and replies, "No, it's pink, like rose petals in the wind." Both believe what they see.
Both speak truth.
And yet their truths do not match. This small disagreement reveals something profound.
Color, which feels so certain, so solid, is never absolute.
It shifts, it bends, it flickers, depending on the eye, the brain, the context. Your mind tells you the sunset is orange.
Another's mind insists it is pink.
Neither is wrong, and yet they cannot be reconciled into one fixed reality. The reason is simple, though not simple at all. Color is fragile. It depends not only on the wavelengths of light, but also on the comparisons your brain makes. A color does not stand alone. It is shaped by what surrounds it. A grey square looks dark against white, but luminous against black. The same stimulus, two different perceptions. Context is everything. This is why illusions work. Think of the famous dress that split the internet. Some swore it was blue and black, others white and gold. Both sides argued fiercely, as if the truth of color were at stake. Yet the image never changed. What shifted was the brain's assumption about lighting, about shadow, about contrast. Your perception filled in what physics left ambiguous, and in doing so it revealed its own fragility. Walk into a room lit by red light, and your white shirt glows crimson.
Step outside and suddenly it is white again.
The cloth is not transformed. Your perception has. Even more striking, Stare at one color long enough and your brain wearies, leaving behind its opposite as an after-image. Look at green, close your eyes, and you will see magenta. Look at yellow, and a violet shadow follows you inward. Perception, for all its beauty, is a restless, shifting construct. And then there is color blindness. Proof that not everyone lives in the same spectrum. A person with red-green color blindness does not distinguish those hues as you do. Their rainbow is flatter, missing contrasts that define your own. To them, the world is not broken, not lacking. It is simply tuned differently. And so again the question arises, which rainbow is the real one? Yours? Theirs? Or perhaps neither? Your mind does not only receive color,
It invents it.
consider optical tricks like the checker shadow illusion. Two squares of identical shade appear different because of the shadows cast upon them. Or the impossible colors scientists can summon by overloading your visual system. Hues that cannot exist in the natural spectrum, yet flicker briefly in your perception. These are not mistakes. They are revelations. They show you that color is not something given, but something made. But if color can be fooled, reshaped, reinterpreted so easily, can it be trusted? Can perception itself be trusted? The philosopher may say, no, that perception is only a convenient fiction, a dream of reality spun by your nervous system. The scientist may say yes, that despite its tricks and illusions, perception remains useful, adaptive, reliable enough to survive. And you, standing between them, feel both truths at once. Color is fragile, and yet color is real, because what is reality if not the experience of it? The sunset may not be orange in any universal sense, but the warmth you feel when gazing at it, the peace it brings to your heart, the memory it burns into your mind, these are real. They are not diminished by disagreement. They are not erased by illusion. In fact, they may be made all the more beautiful by their fragility. You might recall a child holding up crayons and asking you which one is red. You answer without hesitation. Yet ask another child in another place and perhaps they choose a slightly different shade.
Both are correct.
The boundaries of color are soft, not sharp. They bend with language, with culture, with the eye itself. And so we live not in a single rainbow, but in overlapping rainbows, each tuned by context, by biology, by mind. This does not mean beauty is false. It means beauty is flexible. The sunset's glow may be orange to one, pink to another, violet to a third, but all agree that it is beautiful. Beauty is not broken by disagreement. It is created by it, enriched by it. Like a chord in music, it gains its depth from difference. Perhaps this is the true lesson of color's fragility. Not that perception is untrustworthy, but that perception is creative. It paints the world not with rigid absolutes, but with living, shifting hues. Your rainbow is not fixed, but flowing, and in that flow lies its poetry. Close your eyes for a moment and consider. Even when the world withdraws, when no light touches your retina, colors still find a way to return. Dreams stir with impossible palettes. Memory recalls the crimson of autumn leaves, the turquoise of tropical seas. Imagination paints shades no spectrum could hold. Here, color is not received but created, not discovered but invented. So perhaps it does not matter if perception is fragile. Perhaps its fragility is its gift. For even fooled, even bent by illusion, color remains the medium by which your mind writes its own secret poetry. Close your eyes. The world fades.
Light withdraws.
The colors of the sunset, the shimmering blues of the ocean, the vivid greens of the forest, all vanish from sight. And yet, in the darkness behind your eyelids, something extraordinary happens. Colors return. They arrive uninvited, painted not by the world, but by your mind. Dreams have their own palette. They summon shades that no spectrum could ever contain. A flower might glow with an impossible iridescence. A sky may shift through hues you could never name. A face might shimmer in colors beyond language. You accept them without question, even though no physics could explain them. Because here, color is not discovered. it is created. Think of the dream in which you walked through a city glowing with strange neon lights, each hue unfamiliar yet vivid, or the dream where water gleamed with a green not found on Earth. These colors were not reflected by objects or measured in wavelengths. They were conjured by imagination itself. Your nervous system, freed from the constraints of the external world, paints its own canvas in the dark. This is not unique to sleep. Psychedelic experience has shown travelers visions of colors that cannot be named, hues that shimmer between categories, shades that flicker like living things. A person may describe seeing a new blue, not lighter, not darker, but entirely other. Others speak of rainbows splitting into more bands than they had ever believed possible. Such visions reveal the mind's latent ability to invent its own color space, to extend perception beyond biology. Meditation, too, sometimes carries color with it. In the quiet depths of stillness, practitioners describe waves of light, inner skies glowing with violet, gold, or indigo. These may not correspond to wavelengths in the outer world, but they are no less real as experiences. They prove again that color is not bound to the eye, but to the act of perceiving. And then there is imagination, the simplest, most everyday miracle. Think now of a ripe strawberry. You see its redness in your mind.
Think of the ocean, its endless blue.
Think of fire, its flickering orange. Where do these colors come from? No light has entered your eyes.
No photon has struck your retina.
And yet, the experience is there. Your mind carries the palette within itself, ready to paint on command. What does this mean? It means color is not only a property of the external world, it is also a property of consciousness itself. The brain does not merely reflect reality, it composes it like an artist sketching from memory, or an orchestra playing from within. Perhaps this is why color carries such symbolic weight in our lives. We say we feel blue when sad, or green with envy, or seeing red with anger. We dream in color not only at night, but in language, in art, in metaphor. Color slips easily from the visual into the emotional, from the physical into the symbolic. It bridges what is seen with what is felt. But the question lingers, are these colors real? The rainbow in the sky is a trick of refraction. The afterimage on your eyelids is a trick of fatigue. The glowing city of your dream is a trick of imagination, yet each feels undeniable in the moment. Perhaps real does not mean fixed or external. Perhaps real means experienced. When you wake from a dream, you may struggle to describe the colors you saw. They slip away like water through your hands. They do not fit into the small boxes of our language, red, blue, green, yellow. They belong to another register, another grammar of perception. And though you cannot hold them, you remember the feeling of them, as if the dream painted not only your mind but your heart. Artists throughout history have tried to capture this dreamlike palette. The glowing yellows of Van Gogh's stars, the surreal hues of Dali's landscapes, the luminous purples and blues of Chagall's floating figures. Each an attempt to translate inner vision into outer form. None succeed completely, but each reminds us that color is more than light. It is imagination, memory, and emotion fused together. Perhaps the truest rainbow is not the one stretched across the sky, but the one stretched across the mind. In it are colors that physics has never measured, but which your consciousness knows intimately. Colors that belong not to the world outside, but to the world within. And so when you close your eyes at night, you do not lose color. You gain it. You step into a palette that belongs to no one but you. The colors of dreams are private, personal, unrepeatable. They are the most intimate expression of the truth we have been circling all along. Color is not a discovery, but a creation. And yet, what of those who have never seen color? What does it mean to dream in technicolor if your eyes have never opened to the light? Some who are blind from birth speak of color as warmth or coolness, as texture, as sensation. To them, red may be the press of the sun on the skin. Blue may be the gentle chill of water. Their palette is not visual, yet it is no less vivid. This is where the journey now leads. For if color can exist without the eye, if it can be felt without sight, then color is something more than a trick of photons and neurons. It is a language of the mind itself, a poetry that can be spoken in vision, in sensation, in memory, and so, as we leave behind the dream's impossible palette, we enter the world of those who paint without seeing, where color becomes a metaphor.
A feeling, a translation of life into another spectrum entirely. What is color to someone who has never seen?
Imagine entering the world with no sunrise to greet you, no rainbow bending overhead, no glimmering ocean stretching to the horizon. Imagine a life where light itself never arrived. And yet within that darkness the mind does not remain silent. It invents, it creates. It whispers its own secret palette. Some who are blind from birth describe red as warmth, the heat of the sun on skin, the pulse of blood, the sting of a fire close by. Blue, they say, is coolness, the gentle press of wind on the cheek, the touch of water, the relief of shade.
Yellow may be brightness without sight, the joy of laughter, the prickling of energy, the spark of vitality.
These colors are not made of light at all. They are made of feeling, so color perhaps is not confined to the eye. It is not bound by cones and rods, nor by wavelengths and photons. It may be something deeper, a code of sensation, a metaphorical language of the mind. Sight gives one dictionary. Touch, sound, and emotion give another, and each dictionary points to the same mystery. The brain does not only record the world, it translates it and sometimes even rewrites it. Think of the blind painter Esref Arman, who paints landscapes and portraits despite never having seen light. He paints skies, seas, and mountains guided by touch and description, yet filled with his own sense of color. Critics marvel at how he understands depth, shadow, and shading, even though he has never seen them. For him, color is not a visual property but an intellectual and emotional one. He builds his palette from language, texture, and inner invention. This tells us something profound. Color is not merely out there in the world. It is in here in the mind. If a person who has never seen can still develop a private language of color, then color itself cannot be reduced to photons bouncing into retinas. It must be something more, a way the mind organizes sensation, a poetry it speaks to itself. Philosophers have long wrestled with this. If color is experience, not physics, then how do we know we share it? You and I may both call fire red, but my redness may not be your redness. And yet, a blind person's redness, warmth, energy, pulse might carry just as much reality as ours. It is not a copy of vision, but a parallel creation, an echo of meaning formed in another key. Consider how language itself shapes color. Cultures across the world describe colors differently. Some languages have no separate word for blue and green, merging them into one. Others describe white, black, and red, but have no terms for orange, yellow, or purple. Yet people in those cultures live, dream, and imagine as vividly as anyone else. Color, it seems, is not fixed even across human societies. It is woven from sensation and story, not merely light. For the blind, the absence of sight does not erase color. It transforms it. Color becomes sound. The high, sharp trill of a bird could be yellow, while the deep rumble of thunder might feel violet. Color becomes emotion. Grief may taste of gray. Joy may hum with gold. The inner life refuses to be monochrome. It insists on painting even without light. This invites a deeper question. Is color truly a window to the world, showing us what is outside? Or is it a mirror of the mind showing us how we interpret what comes in? If someone without eyes can still dream in color, not sighted color, but sensation color, then the essence of color lies not in the photon, but in the perceiver. Science supports this in surprising ways. Studies of people blind from birth reveal that the visual cortex, the part of the brain sighted people use for processing light, does not go dark.
It repurposes itself.
It becomes active during touch, memory, language, and imagination. The brain refuses silence. It fills the void with its own music. Perhaps the colors of the blind are not absent, but simply translated into another mode. And what of those who once saw and then lost their sight? Some say they still dream in color years after blindness. Memory carries the palette forward, as if the mind cannot forget the hues it once knew. Others describe a fading, colors growing dimmer with time, replaced by textures, sounds, and emotions. Yet even this fading suggests color is not locked in the external world. It is carried, reshaped, preserved, and reimagined within consciousness itself. If color can exist without light, then what is it? A property of objects? Or a property of minds? Perhaps it is both and neither. Perhaps it is the place where the world and the self meet, where raw input is dressed in robes of meaning. The blind painter proves this. Without ever seeing a spectrum, he paints one. Without ever catching light, he releases it. And so, the rainbow does not only belong to the sky, it belongs to anyone who perceives, in whatever form perception takes. Color is not confined to eyes, to physics, to light. It is something larger, a way of being, a way of translating sensation into significance, which leads us to a stranger thought. If color can shift from light to warmth, from photons to feelings, could it also shift into something more abstract, into time itself, or sound, or taste? Could the brain, in its restless creativity, assign colors to things that are not colors at all? In some people, this happens naturally. They see numbers as shades or days of the week as hues. For them, time glows with color. Sounds burst into sparks. Tastes paint themselves across the mind's canvas. Their inner world is a kaleidoscope where senses blur and bleed into one another. And so,
as we leave behind the blind painter and his palette of warmth, touch, and imagination,
we step into another frontier, the possibility that even time could be tinted, that even thought could be painted, that the mind itself is an artist without end. What if time itself had a color? Imagine the slow drift of dawn as a pale gold, the sharp chill of winter mornings as blue, the heavy pause of twilight as violet. Before clocks, before calendars, ancient cultures often spoke of days and seasons not in numbers but in tones and hues. They saw spring as green with renewal, summer as red with heat, autumn as orange with harvest, winter as white with stillness. To them, time was not only measured, it was painted. This is not merely poetry. The human brain is capable of weaving time and color into one fabric. In some people, the senses cross, blending what should be separate into a single experience. Neuroscience calls this synesthesia. For a synesthete, numbers may glow with color, or the days of the week may each carry their own tint. Monday might always appear gray, while Friday might shimmer yellow. Time, in this inner dictionary, is not abstract.
It has shades. Consider what this means.
For most, time is invisible, marked by the hands of a clock or the swing of a pendulum. But for the synesthetic mind, time steps forward in a procession of colors. An hour may not feel like 60 minutes, but like a slow sweep of blue dissolving into green. The private language expands, and with it, reality itself is reshaped. Science seeks explanations. One theory suggests that in synesthetes, the boundaries between sensory regions in the brain are more porous. Circuits for vision and circuits for time, or sound, or taste, cross-activate. The brain, in its ordinary neatness, prefers to separate. But in some it overlaps, and where there is overlap, there is invention. What the eye does not see, the mind still paints. Think of music. For some, a symphony is not only sound, but a display of glowing hues, as if each instrument carries a color of its own. A violin's high note may flare silver, A cello's low hum may roll out in deep crimson. Here, time, marked by rhythm, becomes a moving rainbow, flowing across consciousness in waves. The score of the mind is both heard and seen, a tapestry woven from multiple senses at once, or considered taste. Some synesthetes describe flavors as bursts of shade, a strawberry not only red in appearance, but also red in taste, an inner saturation of color that fills the mouth and mind alike. For them, color does not stop at the eye.
It bleeds, it blends, it carries across every boundary. What does this tell us?
Perhaps color is not a strict property at all, but a flexible invention of perception, a kind of mental brushstroke the brain uses to render reality more vivid. If color can attach itself to time, to music, to numbers, then its essence is not limited to light. Its essence is the way the mind chooses to code experience. Ancient stories whisper of this too. The Greeks spoke of wine-dark seas, suggesting that color was less about hue and more about depth of feeling. The Mayans tied color to ritual calendars, where specific days carried sacred shades. In medieval Europe, hours of prayer were likened to shifting tones of the sky. Across time and culture, humans have reached instinctively for colors to anchor the otherwise invisible passage of life. And yet here lies the contrast. Physics describes time as dimension, measurable, relentless, impartial. There are no shades in the ticking of atoms, no rainbow in the equations of relativity. Time is weight, curvature, motion, numbers without hue. Yet the mind cannot help but translate. It resists the silence of mathematics and instead clothes time in imagery, turning it into something felt, something seen. So which is more real? The physicist's grey clock or the poet's coloured calendar? The truth may be that both are real, but in different registers. Physics tells us how time moves. Perception tells us how time lives. One is external, measurable, cold. The other is internal, vibrant, warm. They are not contradictions, but companions, and carrying the bones of reality, the other its flesh. Synesthesia reminds us that perception is never absolute. What feels natural to you, a week as a sequence of days without hue, is unimaginable to another who cannot think of Tuesday without its blue or Saturday without its orange. Their world is no less real than yours. It's simply tuned differently, painted by a different brush. The mind is not fixed. It is generative, and perhaps this is the most profound lesson. The colors of time are not universal, but they are true to the one who sees them. They show us that reality is always filtered, shaped, and sometimes reinvented by consciousness. We do not only receive the world, we create it. Each shade, each association, each private mapping, these are the threads with which experience is woven. Which brings us back to a lingering question. If the brain can paint time, if it can paint sound and taste and number, then what else might it invent? What private languages are hidden in minds we have never fully studied? Could thought itself carry a tint, or memory a saturation? Could even silence be colorful in its own way? As you drift deeper into this meditation, imagine the quiet passage of an hour, not as a blank, but as a slow shading of the sky within you. Imagine each moment arriving not as a number on a dial, but as a color on a canvas. If you could paint your own hours, what shades would they hold? The question stretches forward, pointing us toward the vastness of physics and philosophy alike. Because while the mind is capable of painting time in endless hues, the cosmos itself remains indifferent. Out there, beyond us, light travels for billions of years across space, untouched, uncolored, silent in its equations. The rainbow does not shimmer until it touches consciousness. And so we arrive at another mystery. Is the rainbow truly out there, waiting in the cosmos, or is it born only here, in the mind?
Imagine a beam of light leaving a star.
It slips into the dark, moving faster than imagination, carrying no voice, no color, no shimmer. It drifts for billions of years across empty space, brushing past planets, bending around gravity, silent in its journey.
No eye sees it. No mind notices.
And in that silence, it is only mathematics, vibration, a frequency, a set of numbers marching forward without witness. This is how physics describes the universe, a grand unfolding of equations, impartial, indifferent, exact. Light is not a splash of blue or a blush of red. It is an electromagnetic wave with measurable properties. It can be written in formulas, predicted with accuracy, traced on paper. To the cosmos itself, there is no rainbow. There is only information moving through the void. And yet, when that light finally arrives, when it touches your retina, when it enters your consciousness, it changes. Suddenly mathematics becomes splendor. What was silent becomes music. The long journey of photons turns into a sky awash with color, a canvas no equation could ever fully capture. The rainbow comes alive, not in the fabric of space, but in the fabric of mind. Here lies the paradox. Is the rainbow out there, waiting in the cosmos, or is it only in here, inside you? The physicist will say, out there it is pure wavelength. The poet will say, in here it is beauty. Both are correct, yet neither completes the picture. For reality is not only what exists beyond us, nor only what arises within us. It is the bridge, the meeting point, the alchemy between the two. Think of a nebula, vast clouds of gas and dust lit by distant stars. To physics, it is atoms colliding, particles scattering light. To you gazing through a telescope, it is a blossom of violet and emerald, a cosmic garden. The equations are silent, yet the mind cannot help but hear a song in the silence. It cannot help but see a rainbow in the numbers. Contrast sharpens the mystery. Imagine a universe without witnesses. Galaxies turning, stars burning, light spilling endlessly, but no consciousness to receive it. Would there still be color? Would there still be beauty? Or would there only be the bare, unadorned mathematics of energy in motion? Some argue beauty exists whether or not it is seen. Others insist beauty is only born in the seeing. Consider music. A symphony written in notes on paper is potential, but not performance. It needs an instrument, an ear, a mind. Without them it is silent ink. In the same way, the universe carries a silent rainbow of equations. Consciousness is the instrument that turns it into splendor. Without you, it remains unrealized potential. With you, it becomes alive. Cosmology pushes this thought further. Light that left the first stars is still streaming toward us. Some of it has not yet arrived. That means there are colors waiting in the future, waiting to be born inside a future consciousness. Until then, they remain folded into the mathematics like a secret not yet told. The universe is always carrying these unopened gifts, scattering them across time and space, waiting for eyes to unwrap them. But what if the rainbow is not in the cosmos at all? What if it is entirely a creation of mind projected outward onto an indifferent sky? Perhaps photons are only raw data, and the brain is the artist, layering meaning upon meaning until beauty emerges. In that case, color is not discovered but invented. The cosmos gives you ingredients. Consciousness writes the recipe. This question lingers in philosophy. Is color a property of objects or a property of perception? The grass may reflect certain wavelengths, but green is not in the grass. It is in you. Without you, the grass is only reflecting energy. Without you, the rainbow is only a spectrum with no glow. The splendor you see may be as private as a dream, even when you share it with others. And yet, is it not astonishing that mathematics and perception align so well? Physics predicts the behavior of light with precision, and still, when translated into your mind, it matches. Red at one end, violet at the other. The private poetry of experience does not contradict the equations. It completes them. As though consciousness is the final variable the universe requires, the final term that transforms formula into vision. So where does this leave us? Perhaps reality wears two faces, one of mathematics, one of meaning.
One in silence, one in splendor.
one that exists whether or not you are here, and one that exists only because you are. The rainbow is both out there and in here, a double truth, a bridge that spans cosmos and consciousness alike. And in this double truth lies a deeper wonder. For if consciousness turns equations into rainbows, then what does that say about consciousness itself? How can matter that once was stardust generate a mind that sees beauty in the very starlight from which it came? How can the equations of physics, silent and exact, give rise to the feeling of red, the softness of blue, the awe of violet skies? This is the mystery philosophers call qualia, the irreducible glow of experience itself. Physics may trace the journey of light, but it cannot explain why that journey feels like anything at all once it arrives in the mind. Neuroscience may map neurons, but it cannot capture the redness of red, the blueness of blue, the splendor that lingers in silence. So the question presses closer, more insistent, more luminous. Can science ever explain the inner light? Or does color itself prove that consciousness is more than matter, more than mathematics, more than equations ever suggest? The rainbow fades as you ponder this. The cosmos returns to silence, to vibration, to numbers. Yet within you the glow remains, asking its question softly, insistently, like the horizon at dusk. Close your eyes and imagine the color red. Not the word, not the wavelength, not the physics of photons, but the redness itself. That private glow, impossible to translate, impossible to hand to another. You can point to an apple, a rose, a sunset, but still the experience of red is yours alone. This is what philosophers call qualia, the raw feel of experience, the inner theater of consciousness. Science can measure the wavelength of light, trace the electrical firing of neurons, map the pathways in the visual cortex. But none of these measurements capture the redness of red. They capture the mechanics, but not the feeling. The stage, but not the play. This gap is known as the hard problem of consciousness. Easy problems are those of function, how the eye detects light, how the brain processes signals, how the body reacts. These can be solved with microscopes, equations, and experiments. The hard problem is different. Why does any of it feel like something from the inside? Why isn't the brain just a silent machine, grinding through inputs and outputs with no glow, no awareness, no color at all? Imagine a perfect robot, one that could mimic every human behavior. It speaks, moves, and reacts as though alive. But when it says, "I see red," is there a glow of red inside its mind? Or is it merely repeating a script, an imitation of experience without the reality of experience? The question is unsettling, for it forces us to ask, what about ourselves? How do we know the redness we feel isn't just a convincing trick of neurons? Some philosophers argue that qualia prove consciousness is irreducible, that mind cannot be explained in terms of matter alone. They point to the redness of red as evidence that there is something more, some property of reality beyond physics. Others argue the opposite, that qualia are illusions, strange byproducts of brains evolved to survive, not to reveal ultimate truth. Consider Mary's room, a famous thought experiment. Mary is a scientist who knows everything about color, every equation of optics, every detail of how the eye works, every neural map of vision. But she has lived her whole life in a black and white room. She has never seen color. One day, she steps outside and sees a red rose.
In that moment, does she learn something new?
If so, then no amount of physical knowledge could ever capture the experience of red itself. Others reply, no, Mary gains nothing truly new, only a new way of accessing what she already knew. Perhaps her astonishment is just the brain firing along a new path, no more mysterious than tasting chocolate for the first time. In this view, qualia are not irreducible mysteries, but temporary gaps in our understanding. What feels unexplainable today may be explained tomorrow, but still the question lingers, what is it like to see red? And can that, what it's like, ever be translated into the language of science? The difficulty deepens when we consider that no two people may experience color in exactly the same way. You call the sky blue, I call the same sky blue, but how can we ever know our blues are the same? Perhaps my blue is your green. Perhaps your red is my violet. We cannot climb into each other's minds to compare. All we share is language, fragile bridges built across private seas of experience. And yet, despite this uncertainty, we live as though the bridge holds. We teach children colors, we paint. We create flags, symbols, art. A world built on fragile agreements of inner vision somehow coheres into shared meaning. This, too, is part of the puzzle. Private qualia somehow support public life. Neuroscience advances steadily, offering glimpses into the mystery. Scans can show which regions of the brain light up when you see red. Electrodes can make a patient perceive flashes of color that aren't there. But these are correlations, not explanations. They show the footprints of qualia, not qualia themselves. The redness is always just beyond reach, shimmering on the horizon of science like a sunset you can see, but never touch. Perhaps the problem lies in how we ask the question. Science explains things by breaking them down, by reducing wholes into parts. But qualia may not be reducible. The redness of red is not built from smaller pieces. It simply is. It resists dissection, as if it were an indivisible atom of consciousness, the fundamental unit of experience. Or perhaps qualia are not mysterious atoms at all, but illusions. The brain's clever shortcut for integrating vast amounts of sensory data into something simple and usable. Illusions can be powerful, even indispensable. A rainbow is an illusion, the product of light and water and perspective. Yet we do not say rainbows aren't real. We say they are real as illusions.
Could qualia be the same?
If so, then color is both more and less than we think. Less, because it is not a property of the world, but of the mind. More, because without it, the world would be unbearably empty. And so the debate continues, circling endlessly, like light itself bouncing through prisms and mirrors. Is the glow of experience a fundamental truth or a trick of survival? Is the redness of red the key to consciousness or a mirage on the desert horizon of philosophy? The philosophers do not agree. The scientists do not agree. The poets perhaps are wiser, for they simply dwell in the glow without demanding it be solved. They accept that mystery itself can be luminous, but the question remains, lingering like a sunset over the sea. Can the redness of red ever be explained, or must it simply be lived? And here we turn to another paradox, just as radiant. Strip color away, and the universe remains intact.
Atoms move, stars burn, rivers flow, no hue required.
Yet strip it away from life, and something essential is lost. Color is not necessary, yet it is indispensable. Imagine stripping color from the world. The sky becomes a pale wash of grays.
Leaves lose their emerald fire, flowers their brilliant chorus.
The ocean no longer shimmers with sapphire depths or turquoise shallows. It becomes a shifting surface of silver and smoke, and yet the physics remains untouched.
Atoms still move in their restless dance.
Stars still burn with nuclear fire. Rivers still carve valleys and carry life. The universe does not need color. Color adds nothing to its equations, but to us, without color, something irreplaceable has vanished. A black and white sunset is still the same event in physics, but not the same experience in life. Without the deep crimson of dusk, the honeyed gold of twilight, or the indigo hush of night, the soul feels as though it has been robbed of a language it did not know it needed. Science is clear. Color is not out there. It is in here, inside the mind. Out there are only wavelengths, photons, vibrations. Inside there are hues, glows, saturations, intensities. An apple, physically, reflects light of a certain frequency.
Only in the brain does that reflection ignite into red, and yet this so-called illusion is woven into everything we call meaningful.
Lovers give roses because red feels like passion. Nations choose flags because colors feel like identity. Artists splash canvases with pigment because colors feel like windows into truth. If illusion it is the most necessary illusion of all. Think of music. The vibrating air itself carries no harmony, no sadness, no joy. It is pressure, frequency, movement. Yet in the mind it becomes melody, sorrow, triumph. We do not say music is false because air pressure alone explains it. We say music is real because it is lived. Perhaps color is the same, a symphony of sight, composed not by the world but by the mind that receives it. The philosopher's voice enters here. If color is an invention of the brain, does that make it less real or differently real? Physics shows us a world stripped of qualities, a skeleton of interactions. But human life demands more than skeletons. We crave flesh tone, radiance. Color is the flesh of vision, the way life adorns itself with meaning. To call it mere illusion misses the point. Illusions, when lived, are truths in disguise. Imagine a life entirely without color, as in those rare conditions of complete achromatopsia. The world becomes shades of grey, every tree a monotone outline, every face robbed of warmth. People who live in this way describe it as a narrowing of experience, not a loss of function. They can still identify objects, still navigate, still survive, but something essential is missing. They live without a certain poetry, without a canvas upon which emotions might spill. And yet here lies the paradox. The laws of physics continue unbothered. Evolution could have chosen not to paint the world at all. A colorless life is still life. A colorless universe is still a universe. So why paint?
Why add this shimmering excess?
Perhaps because illusion and truth are not opposites, but partners. Perhaps color is the mind's way of meeting the universe halfway. Physics offering the raw vibrations, the brain offering the bloom. Together they form the rainbow. Consider the painter at work. A blank canvas on its own is nothing but white cloth stretched on wood. Paints on their own are nothing but ground minerals, suspended oils, or synthetic compounds. But when hand and mind conspire, the two fuse into art. The universe may be the blank canvas, the photon the paint, but consciousness is the hand that paints. And in this light, calling color an illusion is like calling art an illusion. The brushstroke may not exist in physics, but it exists in the gallery of the soul. And what a barren gallery it would be without it. Strip color away, and life feels empty. Give it back, and suddenly everything seems to sing. The green of spring grass becomes renewal. The gold of autumn fields becomes nostalgia. The blue of night becomes mystery. None of this is required. All of it is indispensable. Here lies the strange reconciliation. Colorless truth and colorful life are not in conflict. They are two sides of one coin. Science tells us what is necessary.
Living reveals what is beautiful.
We need both. The skeleton and the glow, the equation and the hue. Perhaps this is the secret role of color, not to tell us about the universe as it is, but to make the universe bearable, livable,
lovable. The stars do not burn for beauty.
The rivers do not sparkle for joy. The flowers do not bloom for delight. Yet in color they do all of these things for us. The illusion becomes truth the moment it is lived, and so when science declares color an invention, we can smile gently, knowing that inventions too can be real. Color is not falsehood. It is the artistry of perception. Without it, the universe is correct but incomplete. With it, the universe is alive. The last rays of this thought fade like a sunset. Science strips the rainbow down to numbers, but life restores it as splendor. Between the two lies the dance of illusion and truth, partners in a waltz older than memory. And as we step away from this chapter, another question emerges, glowing softly like a brushstroke in twilight. If color is illusion,
and yet indispensable, who then is the artist? Picture for a moment the gallery of your mind.
The walls are endless, the halls uncharted. Every step reveals a new canvas, painted not by brush or pigment, but by the silent hand of perception itself. This gallery is yours alone. No other visitor may walk its corridors. No other eyes may see its treasures. Every brain is a painter, and colour is its most intimate masterpiece. Think of a child seeing the ocean for the first time. Their mind does not merely record the scene as data. It spills azure waves across the canvas, layers them with sunlight that sparkles into glittering silver, frames the horizon with a wash of pale blue. The ocean is more than salt water and motion. It is a painting, a living mural, drawn in the private gallery of the child's perception. That same ocean reflected in another child's gallery may shimmer in deeper tones or softer hues, or something neither of us could name. The shared scene becomes two unshared artworks, and so you walk through life carrying your own untranslatable rainbow. You live inside a moving museum curated by your neurons. What you call red is the brushstroke only you can see. What you call blue is a window only you can look through. No language, however poetic, can open that window fully to another. We trade words, crimson, scarlet, indigo, emerald, but they are but signs pointing toward canvases hidden behind locked doors. This is both a solitude and a wonder.
Solitude because you can never hand over your private gallery key.
Wonder because you live in a world that others are painting too, each mind a museum unseen. You may never see another's rainbow directly, but you know it exists. That knowledge alone deepens the mystery, like standing outside the Louvre at night, sensing masterpieces within, but unable to enter. Consider the artists who paint on real canvases. Van Gogh's swirling skies, Monet's water lilies, Rothko's trembling fields of colour. Each of them tried to project their private gallery into the public square, hoping to give you a glimpse of what their minds had seen. And when you look upon those paintings, your brain paints again, layering your hues atop theirs. No painting ever leaves its painter intact. It dissolves, merges, transforms, reborn in the sight of each new mind. The gallery multiplies. The neuroscientist might step into this scene and remind us that what we call colour is neurons firing, cones in the retina responding to wavelengths, signals passing along the optic nerve, processed in the occipital cortex. But what science describes is the scaffolding, the preparation of the canvas. The painting itself, the crimson sunset that glows within you, appears only when consciousness holds the brush. Biology provides the structure. Experience provides the masterpiece. And so to live is to be both observer and artist. You see the world, but you also paint it. You record, but you also compose. The brain is not a camera passively capturing reality. It is an artist ceaselessly rendering reality into something livable, something beautiful, something yours. This raises a quiet, almost haunting question. If every gallery is private, do we live in isolation, each alone in our rainbow? Or can our galleries connect, weaving together into one vast museum? Think of music again. When you hear a symphony, the notes that stir your heart are not the same vibrations stirring another's. Yet somehow, people in the same concert hall rise together to their feet, united in applause. Though the inner soundscapes differ, something has connected them. Could colour work the same way? Perhaps when we both call the sky blue, it does not matter that my blue and your blue may be worlds apart. What matters is that we share the word, the gesture, the awe. Through language and art, our galleries send beams of light through their locked doors. There is also empathy, that strange gift of humanity. You cannot see my red, but when I tell you the red sunset moved me to tears, you feel the echo. My gallery reaches into yours, not by vision, but by resonance. In that moment, the solitude softens. Our private museums hang mirrors, and the mirrors reflect. Imagine, then, a universe where every gallery could indeed connect, not only through words, art, or empathy, but directly. What would it mean to step into another's rainbow? To see their green as they see it, to taste their blue as they taste it. Would it be revelation, or would it collapse the very magic of privacy? Perhaps the secrecy of the gallery is what makes it sacred. The mystery, not the answer, may be the point. Still the thought lingers. All our untranslatable rainbows gathered together might form one cosmic exhibition, a museum without walls, each human mind contributing a color no other could invent, a spectrum beyond physics woven by consciousness itself. If such a gallery exists, it is scattered across billions of minds, glowing quietly, unseen but real. And so you return once more to your own inner museum. Walk the halls. Notice the brushstrokes your brain has left, the childhood memories still glowing with certain hues, the moments of loss painted in greys and shadows, the seasons of joy bursting with radiant tones. You have been the artist all along. And even now, in this quiet night, your mind is painting. This very thought, this very vision, in colors no one else will ever know. Every brain is a painter. Every life is a gallery. To live is to wander among your own masterpieces, and to wonder is to sense that perhaps, somehow,
all our galleries whisper to one another across the silence,
hinting at one vast museum of mind. And yet, as all artists know, every gallery must dim its lights at the end of the day. The paintings fade into shadow, the halls grow silent. Consciousness itself, like color, may be a temporary exhibition, dazzling but destined to close, and so we arrive, gently, at the next doorway. If every gallery eventually darkens, then what is the last color the mind will paint? As night falls, colors begin to fade. The sky, once burning with crimson fire, melts into purple dusk, then into indigo quiet, and finally into black. Shadows soften, outlines blur, and the once vivid hues surrender themselves to darkness. You watch this slow dimming, and it feels familiar. For each evening, your own mind performs the same ritual. Consciousness, like the sunset, begins to close its palette. Sleep paints in fading shades. At first, colors drift gently, dreamlike, still holding the warmth of the day. Then they dissolve into muted tones, impressions, fragments. And eventually even those dissolve into nothing, a colorless night where the canvas rests. Just as the universe holds no hues until the mind adds them, your sleeping mind holds no gallery until it awakens again to paint. Perhaps consciousness itself is like color, dazzling yet temporary, a private invention real only in the moment it shines. Your waking mind invents splendor from grays, just as your brain invents rainbows from invisible light. And like those rainbows, the glow of consciousness may vanish when its source is gone. Physics does not mourn this loss. The stars still burn, the atoms still dance, the galaxies still drift. They carry on in silence, indifferent to whether anyone watches. The equations remain untouched, perfect in their grey precision. Yet you and I know there is more. We know that splendor has been invented here, that a rainbow has risen within the mind, even if the universe itself stays colorless. And in that invention lies meaning. Meaning is not written into the cosmos any more than color is written into photons. Meaning is painted, created, born in perception, shaped in reflection. Just as you give blue to the sky, you give significance to your days. Just as you turn sunlight into gold, you turn moments into memories. Without you, the universe is complete, but without color. With you, it becomes a gallery, alive with hues no equation can hold. This is not weakness.
This is artistry.
The mind is not only an observer of physics, it is the artist that makes physics livable. If consciousness is a trick, it is the most generous trick in existence. For it takes a grey universe and makes it radiant. It takes vibrations and makes them songs. It takes wavelengths and makes them sunsets. It takes matter and makes it matter. And so the question comes, gentle but inescapable. What is the last color the mind will paint? Is it the soft graying of twilight as life itself begins to fade? Is it the memory of a childhood blue sky glowing even as everything else dims? Is it the imagined gold of hope carried into silence?
No one can know.
Perhaps each of us paints a different final hue, one last brushstroke in the private gallery before the lights go dark. Yet even in this mystery, there is comfort. For to live is already to have painted. To exist is already to have filled the walls of your mind with an exhibition no one else could create. Every shade you've ever seen, every color you've ever dreamed, every rainbow only you could know. They are proof that splendor has bloomed here. And though every gallery must close, the mystery stays awake. Just as the rainbow returns after every storm, consciousness too may not be finished with its invention. Perhaps there are colors beyond death, shades beyond waking life. Perhaps the last color is not an ending but a beginning, opening into palettes we cannot yet imagine. Or perhaps the mystery itself is the point, that not knowing, not seeing, not finishing is its own kind of beauty. The rainbow closes, the hues fade, but the wonder remains alive in the very question, why was there color at all? Why was there splendor where none was required? Why in a universe of silent equations was there this gallery, this painter, this luminous invention we call you? And now as we end this journey together, I want to thank you. You have walked with me through 15 chapters, wandering the galleries of science, philosophy, and imagination. From the first ray of dawn to the last color of night, you have stayed, listening, reflecting, dreaming. For that, I am grateful. This is Late Night Science, and I am so glad you've joined me. If this journey has painted something within you, I'd love to hear where in the world you are listening from tonight. To those who have already subscribed, thank you for being part of this quiet community. And if you are new here and wish to keep traveling these calm corridors of wonder, I invite you gently to subscribe so we may keep walking together as you drift towards sleep.
Let one thought keep you company. It is okay not to know everything.
The universe is vast and you are small, but your very curiosity is a kind of splendor. The colors may fade, but the mystery remains, and in that mystery is peace. Good night. May your dreams be painted in colors no spectrum could ever hold.